What if I told you that there's a people group on Earth today that believes that it is superior over all other races and people groups, and that as a result of this self-superior belief system, that this group of people believes that it is justified in committing genocide against a whole nation of people? If I told you this, I'm sure that the idea would immediately repulse you, but I bet if you thought a little bit about history and course events and so forth, you probably wouldn't be surprised that such a group probably exists. Now, I'm actually not bringing this up in order to highlight any group on Earth today that exists that believes that it's superior and therefore is justified in committing genocide against other people, but I am going to tie this in with a historical set of events that people are commonly educated about. Specifically in World War II, most people in America and most people in first world countries, or who are at least even semi-educated about world events in history, they know about a man named Adolf Hitler who convinced a large group of people, the Nazi Party, that they consisted of a superior race, and that based on their superiority they were justified in killing off primarily the Jews to begin with, but from there they were going to start killing off other entire people groups, minorities who were considered unworthy of living in the same world with the self-superior type people group, the Nazi Party, the Third Reich. Anyway, if I asked you, do you think Hitler was wrong? I'm sure you would say yes, because just about anybody with half a brain who cares about human rights even to a minimal extent is going to say that a person like Adolf Hitler was wrong to the extreme for his specific views and actions against people groups like the Jews. What I would like to ask you, therefore, in place of just if you believe he was wrong, I want to ask you, why was he wrong? And beyond that, I want to ask you, why are you right in saying that somebody like an Adolf Hitler was wrong for the atrocities that he committed? The reason you want to listen to this speech is you do not want an Adolf Hitler or anybody even remotely like him doing your thinking for you. And as things are in the world, both historically and in the present, there are people who exist in high government places and in just in organizations. They're high up, and they want to feed people like you with ideas so that they can essentially turn you into a puppet for their agendas. You do not want these kinds of people doing your thinking for you. Some people in high places are moral people, they care about people and so forth, but some people don't. Anyway, in association with this, there's a company called the Peace Project, and they sell various items such as bumper stickers, and one of the bumper stickers that they sell has a quote on it from Adolf Hitler, and it says, "What good fortune for governments that the people do not think." And this essentially is how Adolf Hitler rose to as much power as he was able to do, how he was able to convince a whole people group to kill off another people group. It's because he portrayed various patriotic ideas amongst his people. The people did not do their own thinking, they just accepted what they were told, and they were led like puppets down this trail that led them to support this cause of exterminating Jews and other people groups. You want to do your own thinking. Do not let people like Adolf Hitler's, either in the present or in the future, do not let them control you. The reason I'm credible to give this speech right now is I'm a very devout student of ideas. Specifically, just to give you the angle at which I approach the world, my worldview. I am a Judeo-Christian. It's my worldview. I believe the Bible is the inspired Word of God, and that is the foundational premise upon which I formulate all my ideas. It's the foundation upon which I evaluate all things, and it's how I conduct my life. How I evaluate whether I'm in error or whether I am doing what I should be doing. But beyond that, I'm a very devout student of ideas that differ from my own. People who don't believe the Bible is the inspired Word of God, I oftentimes look at their ideas. I evaluate ideas. I don't even accept just ideas that are given in traditional Christian pulpits. I evaluate them. And so, as a devout student of ideas, I am credible at least to speak on the issue at hand. What I'm going to be addressing specifically is a topic on what is called pluralistic tolerance. Now, pluralistic tolerance, according to Ed Henson's The Popular Encyclopedia of Apologetics, it says that all beliefs are equally true and equally valid. This idea sounds great at a superficial level. All ideas are true and valid, therefore we can all just kind of turn our brains off and we can all get along. We can all love one another. We can all be at peace despite all the contradicting views that actually exist in the world. Now, a major problem with this, just offhand, is if everything is right, if there is no wrong, then the thief or some kind of robber who breaks into your house, you can't say that somebody is wrong for breaking in your house. You have to say that, hey, your belief system that is leading you to break into my house is equally invalid to my own, so that I cannot say you are wrong. So there's a lot of social injustices that this belief system called pluralistic tolerance that's very attractive on a surface level, but it leads to all sorts of problems, and that's what I'm going to address right now. In this speech, I'm going to address the difference between what is called traditional tolerance and pluralistic tolerance. I'm going to describe the three biggest logical fallacies of pluralistic tolerance. I'm going to address the three of the biggest ethical fallacies of pluralistic tolerance, and then I'm going to highlight the antithesis or solution to pluralistic tolerance, which is summarized in the term critical thinking. So, in moving right along, there is a difference between traditional tolerance and pluralistic tolerance. By saying I'm against pluralistic tolerance does not mean I am against tolerance. I'm just against a certain type of tolerance. Now, traditional tolerance is a very historical, well-known, it's oftentimes called the old standard of tolerance, traditional tolerance. Whereas pluralistic tolerance is not necessarily a new idea, but it's growing in popularity at a worldwide rate, to where its growth in popularity is largely leads it to be called what people weren't aware of, but now they are, and they're calling it new tolerance. Now, traditional tolerance is a very good thing. I support it very strongly. Traditional tolerance essentially just is the idea that we can agree to disagree. And it's necessary in all types of relationships. For example, if you're married, you do not think, feel, and approach life and everything that you do exactly the same as your spouse. When you grew up, you didn't agree with your parents on everything. You didn't agree with your siblings on everything. Your friends, people that you like to be around, you do not agree with them on all manners of things that you just think about and do, and the processes that you engage in and how you do them. You probably think they're wrong about things. They think that you are wrong about things, but you tolerate one another. You can like one another anyway. But that tolerance is necessary. If you didn't tolerate one another, the friendship couldn't exist. Therefore, you differ, but you tolerate one another. The Bible also commands Christians to live according to this tolerance. It doesn't actually use this kind of verbiage, traditional tolerance, but it does exalt this fundamental idea. For example, in Romans 12:8, Paul was commanding the Roman Christians, and he said to them, if possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. So these Christians in Rome, and that means even Christians today, we are supposed to live peaceably as far as we are able. We are supposed to live peaceably with all sorts of people. That means people within the church and people who agree with Christian values, but it also means people who do not agree with the message of Jesus Christ. For whatever reason, it doesn't really matter why they oppose it, but Christians are supposed to do everything in their God-given power to live peaceably with all manner of people. And specifically, as far as like people who oppose the Christian message, Jesus even went so far in Matthew 5:44 to say, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. So even people who persecute me, people who do not want the best for me, people who want harm for me, I'm supposed to tolerate even these types of people. I'm supposed to even go so far as to love my enemies. So people who oppose me at an extreme level, possibly even to physically harm me, I'm supposed to love them anyway. This doesn't mean that I have to agree with them. I can say that they are wrong. I can say that Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God. That is all there is to it. I can believe what I believe. I can believe certain things about morality and just whatever, ideology. I can say that people who don't agree with that are wrong, but I need to tolerate these people who think that I'm wrong. We can agree to disagree. Hopefully the other people can likewise do the same thing and tolerate me, but I'm supposed to tolerate them. Now, on the other hand, I will say that there are thresholds to traditional tolerance, as in, okay, we can agree to disagree, but there are these thresholds, and this is where, like, I can tolerate certain things from you and still call you a friend, but if you overstep overstep certain lines, then our entire relationship is subject to change. And there are certain things that I simply cannot tolerate, will not tolerate, and I do not believe that God would want me to even think about tolerating. And that would be like, on the extreme level, the Adolf Hitlers. If there's some tyrant who's convincing people to kill off entire people groups, I believe it is my God-given duty to do something against that. For the sake of human rights, for the sake of loving my neighbor, I would like it if people defended me if I was in a position where people were trying to kill me, and I would want to do likewise to other people who might be in inferior type situations where they really are in fear for their lives. Anyway, there are certain things I cannot tolerate, will not tolerate. But pluralistic tolerance, on the other hand, it, once again, according to Ed Henson's The Popular Encyclopedia of Apologetics, it simply says, or it refuses to distinguish between truth and error and right and wrong. That means you can't even say that an Adolf Hitler was wrong for believing that he and his people were superior and that they were justified in killing off people groups like the Jews. Which, this of course is opening up the doors to all sorts of social injustices and issues in the world, but it is very different from traditional tolerance. And that's simply what I want to make, the point I want to make right now. Traditional tolerance is a good thing, tolerance is a good thing, but pluralistic tolerance is actually an abuse of what people want from what is called tolerance.